Are we starting? Oh. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Game Hub. I'm your host, Gamer K. And we are finally in the month of June, ladies and gentlemen. Summertime is here, as you can tell by for those of you Total Drama fans, my Mr. Coconut Art Deco artwork. And a beach image of one of the cosplayers I've met as Android 17 at the beach. 17 or 18? Whichever. I'm all ready for summer, and I'm ready for a bunch of new videos this month. And to start off, a big thing in video games is always a water level. And a bunch of YouTubers I follow have done a vast list of water levels and, of course, water bosses. Now, I wanted to do my own interpretation of this by going through my top 13 aquatic bosses. And yeah, that can technically be the same thing as a water boss, but I like to give it my own twist by doing a couple things different. For one thing, these aren't just bosses that use water as an attack. We are also looking at the atmosphere of which the boss battle is, and also the aesthetic of said boss. Because just having like a sorcerer using water magic or a giant lake monster kind of throws the whole water theme on. It's kind of, what am I trying to say? Yeah, they do it to redundant state. They do it in such a way that's so redundant that we know it's a water boss. So, we're going through my top 13 aquatic bosses, like I said. Now, again, boss list. Rules. Rule 1, only games I've played and bosses I've beaten. Again, I can't comment on something I've never beaten. Rule 2, one boss per franchise. And of something different, number 3, the way I'm ranking these bosses is how well the aquatic theme feels in the atmosphere, in the boss itself, as a character as well, and towards the whole fight itself of how we use the aquatic section either against them or how we have to kind of traverse it in a way. So with that being said, it's my first top 13 of the month. And why top 13 again? Because here on the Game Hub, only the odd can be number 1. So, ironically, as I snack on some goldfish, you know what to do. Starting off this list, it's a retro game that's near and dear to my heart, the Fairly Odd Parent Shadow Showdown. Now, being a kind of kiddie game, obviously the boss fights aren't going to be super challenging, because, again, it is for kids, but still, it's still enjoyable. And this boss fight comes from either the second or third boss of the game, depending which order you do them in. After Vicky destroyed the Phoenix egg we need to beat for the Fairyversary muffin, Timmy remembers one in the Crimson Chin comic books. And this is where we get our aquatic boss, one of Crimson Chin's villains, which appeared in a couple of episodes, if I recall, H2 Olga, where she has flooded Cincinnati. I just got the joke there just now. I'm all honesty, just got it right now. Where she is planning to absorb the Crimson Chin's powers in the egg and then destroy it forever. So, thing I don't understand about this level is if we didn't intervene, would the story have concluded, or is this an issue that ends on a cliffhanger? Yes, I said cliffhanger, and he's the Crimson Chin. I get it. But yeah, H2 Olga is the boss of the end of the level, and again, aquatically, we are in the Cincinnati waterworks, and where she has technically taken it over. So there was possibilities here, but they kind of suck. Basically, we climb up the tower where she is in a pool of water, and we have to freeze her aqua hippo henchmen or whatever. So we use them as platforms to get over the water. And we have to hit 3 buttons that go up the top of the waterworks. And this will dump toxins into her pool. Okay, I'm just gonna say be honest. You do know that the toxin dump is there, so why are you still standing there after each button? Also, every time we do this, she gets bigger and bigger. And yeah, I'm surprised a lot of cosplay girls haven't cosplayed her at all, as far as I know, which would be actually pretty cool. But yeah, hit 3 buttons, she gets bigger and bigger each time, and then she faints from all the toxins. This boss list is aquatic, but at the same time, it's at the bottom of the list because, I mean, it's a fun boss fight, but she doesn't do anything. I mean, you would have to try very hard to get hit in this level. Basically, if you just let the hippo henchman attack you. Also, there's no game over in this game. There are no game overs throughout the boss fights, unlike the first game, which I don't really like because it kind of depletes the challenge. But yeah, it's a good boss fight to get our feet wet. Coming out number 12, another game that's near and dear to my heart. Spyro Year the Dragon, where we are at Seashell Shore, where we get our customary 1 boss fight per homeworld. Yeah, 1 boss after we complete the homeworld, and 1 boss fight, mini boss in one world, where we will have to fight Bluto the Rhinoc by using a subcarrier, which we will shoot missiles at him while we dodge his giant shark submarine. Okay, I'm just going to say this. The boss fight takes place in a giant circular water area, and the shark is devastating because it chomps at you. And we have to navigate with the boat cannon. But the problem here is the original version was harder than the remastered version. Here's the original look of Bluto. Basic kind of Rhinoc with a sailor outfit with a giant metal shark. And here's the new one. They downsized the size of the shark. And the way, because of how clean the animation is and how good the controls work, I had a harder time doing it on the original than in the remaster, which kind of sucks because I missed the challenge. And just having this massive mechanical shark chomp at you and chase you around the field has a more threat level than the original, where it's easy to dodge. Yeah, that's the one thing. If remasters make the bosses easier, I gotta drop him low. But he does still get on the list because he's still a cool aquatic boss. So yeah, Bluto gave it his all, but in terms, he ended up sinking the mission. Okay, seriously, are they all going to be water-based puns? I mean, obviously they are, but God, now I know how Josh Scorcher feels half the time. Now, this is an odd one. A final boss on the list for an aquatic list. So, family is a harsh thing. We all have that black sheep of the family. We all have that irritating siblings. I know I do. And of course, there's always that one family secret that is always going to ruin our lives. For Rasputin Aquato, it's the fact that his grandma isn't his grandma, but his great aunt, or, no, second grandma, and that would be Maligula, the Deluge of Grulovia. I'm going to be honest, the boss fight is interesting, but it could have been more interesting. For context, Maligula was I don't know what the technical term is for, because in all Psychonauts, every single character has their own kind of psychic ability. Hers is the ability to manipulate water. And pretty cool that she turns it into serpents as well, which I really love. And after being forced by the royal family of Gurlovia to drown the citizens who are rebelling, she kind of went crazy. And to help her out, she had her memory kind of wiped a little bit, or locked deep down, in order to pretend to be the lovable grandmother, which she still is. But her past kind of got caught up to her in the second game, which again I freaking love, and I hope we get a third one. Maligula's boss fight is somewhat simple. Like, all honesty, it's one of the simpler boss fights in the game, and it's the final boss, so you kind of have to knock it down some points. Maligula will stay basically majority of the fight in her water cyclone as she sends out her water serpents at you. Basically, you just do basic attacks at her. Mind Blast, Pyrokinesis. And then when she comes out at times, it's basically the same thing. Although the final battle is when you grow giant and she grows giant, and you kind of got to push her over the edge of the waterfall, which is great. It's absolutely fantastic. But again, when it comes to final bosses, I kind of dock points if they do one of three things. And one of those three things is having basic enemies kind of swarm the field a majority to assist. And this boss fight does it. Although it is an emotional boss fight, and I do love the whole aquatic theme, how we're going down a river on a platform as the boss fight's going. And yeah, she does use aquatic abilities, so it does get on the list. But again, it's still on the low side of the list because of all the issues that I mentioned. Still a good boss fight. Great ending to the whole Aquato family curse. And I hope they kind of dive more into it in the third one. Did I just say dive into it? Something's fishy? Yeah, I didn't really have a good segue for this. But Super Mario Galaxy has a good majority of boss fights. And one I was honestly going to put on a worse list would be the king of the Fishbone Galaxy, King Finn. This thing scared the shit out of me. Because if there's three things I don't like in video games, is aquatic levels where I have a breath meter, having to run away from certain threats, and also giant sharks or any other giant aquatic creatures that will get me because I can't use a lot of weapons. And King Finn was definitely a boss fight that had me kind of terrified, and plus his boss music is just, it kind of has that Jaws-ish feel, but in like a boss fight way. So the music alone makes me not terrified, but just gives the shivers and the threat of a shark attack. And I do love how the only planet in this galaxy is the boss fight, where we have to use the ship in order to launch ourselves in there in order to fight him. And basically, the boss fight's pretty easy. I mean, we just gotta circle around the planet and collect the green shells and launch them at King Finn. Do this a number of times, and he's done. Although, do this before the end, and he'll conjure up some fish bones that will attack you in his stead. King Finn gets on this list because he's a really cool aquatic boss, and definitely one of the better shark bosses I've fought in a long time. But it's still very low on the list because he doesn't really have any attacks outside of like chomping at you and sending his fish bones at you. So again, amazing concept, amazing atmosphere, but there are just some bosses that have done it a little bit better. Well, a Yu-Gi-Oh character is finally on a list, and it's for good reason. Last month, I talked about Capsule Monster Coliseums and how really great the boss fights are. And I think an aquatic boss list would not be possible or not be acceptable here on the Game Hub if I don't include Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Monsters' own fish dude, Mako Tsunami. And his fight in the game is pretty cool. He uses three or four aquatics, 2 lights, and an earth monster, and his entire game arena is basically a little bit of land on the edges with the entirety being ocean. And his main squeeze is, of course, Fiend Kraken, which I do love. They could have done Kirushin or... Nah, they couldn't have done the Legendary Fisherman because it wouldn't have worked well. But again, I still love this boss fight. Because you still got to be tactful because all of his aquatic characters gain a big boost whenever he's in the ocean area, which is about 95% of the whole board. Only problem is he kind of screws himself over because halfway through the battle, as in every stage in this game, something will happen that will either change the atmosphere or put some hazards. And for him, a giant ship comes out of the ocean and makes a majority of the board land. I mean, for an aquatic guy, it's kind of lame. I mean, again, he gets rid of his entire advantage. I don't know why the creators did that. They could have had it better where they could have included some hazards that would deal damage to non-aquatic characters in the water. Something like that. But overall, again, Mako is a great opponent with a great board, and it definitely utilizes him as the fish duelist that he is. So, very good, Mako. Very good. I get the feeling Pokemon games love their water people. I mean, I'm just going to say this. I like water types as much as the next person. But there has to be a line to draw. Like, every generation doesn't need a water leader. So, yeah, water characters. Who would I put on this list? Would it be Archie, Team Aqua's leader? Nope. Would it be either Misty or Wallace or Cassandra? Oh, Cassandra. Or is it Cassandra, her name? No, I'm thinking of someone else. Noelle. You guys know who I'm talking about. But no, I'm going for a water gym leader that thinks way out of the box and doesn't have the particular aquatic motif that a majority of the gym leaders have. I'm talking about our 4th gym leader from Diamond, Pearl, and Platinum, the wrestler Crasher Wake. I freaking loved this dude when he first came into the game. I loved him. I mean, for a majority of reasons, mostly because his wrestler motif doesn't really fit for a water gym. I mean, yeah, for a fighting gym, a ground gym, I mean, heck, even a steel gym would have been perfect. But they went with water, and I do love that. His whole personality is that whole menacing-looking leader. But he's got a kindred spirit as he spends most of his time in the marsh and the safari protecting the animal, the Pokemon. And I do love that. I mean, in the anime, again, not so much, but that doesn't have any bearing. But I still wish that in the game, the gym leaders had a bit more story as the later ones did. But Crasher's gym is pretty basic. Basically, think of it like the water temples in a lot of Zelda games, where you have to hit switches to rise or lower the water level in order to progress. Could have done something a little bit better, but, you know, still great. Plus, there's his team, which I love his team for a majority of reasons. One thing, he's got the big bad Gyarados, which will definitely intimidate your team and lower their attack power. I mean, yeah, being a water flying, he's extra weak to water, to electricity. And so, yeah, that would kind of hurt. But it still has a beefy starter. And then he goes to the lovable but derpy Quagsire. And I do love him. Mostly because the water ground type definitely neutralizes all electrical attacks. And plus he's got Mud Bomb, I think. I hope he's got Mud Bomb. Because if it's that mud sport attack, it's kind of lame. But then we get one of my favorite water types ever. The fast Floatzel. I love this guy. We finally get a Weasel Pokemon. And it's an inflatable raft. And I love him. Plus he's got a really good speed boost. And plus, for anyone who got Turtwig in the beginning of the game, who picked Turtwig, thinking they're going to cheese the water gym leader with grass moves, Floatzel's got an Ice Fang attack, which is perfect. And it's one of the reasons why I love Crasher so much. Not just the personality he portrays throughout the game, but throughout the short parts he's in the game, but his team. Gyarados to intimidate the strength, Quagsire to neutralize any electric types, and for those grass types, Ice Fang Floatzel. It kind of takes the preconceptions of a water gym leader and kind of makes it, I mean, yeah, water attacks on water aren't going to do well. Fire against water, it's a joke. But people thinking that they're going to cheese it with Turtwig or Grottle or Torterra, but no, having Ice Fang at the ready, that shows that the developers want to make this guy not just brute force, but also intelligence as well. And I love that about Crasher. Crasher Wake, you are still one of my favorite gym leaders of all time. But sadly, fan service has declared war on all gym leaders now, so I don't know what's going to happen now. Next up. Okay, we're going to another game I really love, and we're kind of going a little bit more into the aquatic nautical theme. If I'm gonna say this, Mega Man Battle Network 6 was the only Mega Man game that I ever beat. Okay, outside of one that I just beat recently because I'm playing all the other ones. I've never beaten any of the other games before. But number 6 was great because it introduced a new story, new villains, and one of them has to do with, you know what? I'm not gonna go forward. I'm just gonna keep saying we got Dive Man from Mega Man Battle Network 6, who and his operator Blackbeard. No, not that Blackbeard. No, I actually like that one. No, not that one too, although Ian McShane did an amazing job as that. Okay, no, not... Okay, can we just... There! This is the Blackbeard I'm talking about. Who got fired from the aquarium in... Man, it's been so long I can't even remember the name of the town. Basically, he got fired from the aquarium for putting on shows that were a little too dangerous. For example, having the elephant seals jump through rings of fire. So he has Dive Man hack into the system of the aquarium, letting loose all the aquatic animals, including alligators, piranhas, and all sorts of goodness. And Mega Man Battle Network 6 would later steal this idea. No, wait, Mega Man Star Force will steal this idea by releasing snakes. Although this one stole the idea from Mega Man Battle Network 3, where they release animals from the zoo. If a gimmick works, it frickin' works. Basically, for this boss fight, we gotta... You know what? I'm not doing the program stuff. I'm just getting right to the boss fight. Dive Man is an absolute gem of a character. Basically, his entire upper body is the only thing that's visible, so we never get to see him with his feet, because he's always in, like, an aquatic setting. And I do love the design. Having the body be a submarine, with him having a kind of a pipe, and being piratey a little bit. The way he fights is great too. his entire area is the water field where he dies as he's moving. So while he's underwater, we can't really hit him. Plus, he's sending 2 torpedoes down each 2 lanes while he's moving. And then he'll release some mines from his chest that will go to our field. And then for his big attack, it's a giant tsunami wave, which will cover up about 3 panels. And by this point in the game, you got no cross system. You have not done the beasts yet, and a good majority, you're probably not going to have a lot of electric chips. So yeah, although his refight, as they did start doing in Mega Man Battle Network 3 and 5, you can basically cheese him later in the game with the electric chips and abilities that you guys get. Although his first boss is the one that's on the list because it is a different kind of a challenge. Because all the navies in this game are definitely different. And again, it's a cool design. It's a cool gimmick. So Dive Man, you went down with the ship. Too bad your captain didn't go down with you. But he went down in the end. For those of you who know, you know. Okay. Okay, why is that music playing? Okay. Oh. Okay, this music alone gives me some form of anxiety. And I'm realizing that when I bought the Return to Arkham series, I already beat the first game on my PS3 and then decided to buy them on PS4 because it didn't have all the DLC stuff. So I'm going to have to replay that again. Lovely. For those of you who know what I'm talking about, and for those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, you are stupid, and I thank you for it. Killer Croc from Arkham Asylum is by far one of the creepiest and most irritating sections in all of gaming. Mostly because, oh my god, we have to go deep into his lair in the sewers near the end of the game, collecting the spores to build an antidote, all the while he's under the water, and we have to move as slowly as possible. And this is definitely more of a boss fight than a gimmick in a game. And it fits this boss fight fits Killer Croc to the letter. Having him being in his home lair that was specially built for him when there's no map for it, which screws us. So basically we have to do the sonic generator that he puts in the beginning in order to locate the pods. And once in a while, Croc will say, he'll say one of his lines, and he'll pop out somewhere. Sometimes if we are in a crossroads, we have to turn around. We have to have our batarang ready and chuck it at his electric collar to send him in. And then we can keep moving. But again, we still have to be crouching and moving as slow as freaking possible so we don't create sound waves alerting him to our position. And it fucking creeps me out every time. Especially whenever Croc appears, again, almost Jaws-like music comes out, and it keeps going. And it doesn't, and then it goes pitch silent until he appears again. And oh my god, it gives me, okay, I'm getting shivers down my spine. Oh my god. The sounds of this boss fight is the second sound in this game that gives people serious anxiety. The first one is the Arkham chime. Yeah, that. I did that as a joke to my friend, and he looked at me all pissed off because, yeah, extreme anxiety. I'm not even joking. And after we get the last pod, we have to go through the maze again in order to get back. But at least this time we get to send Croc to a well-deserved vacation. Tick-tock, Croc. No, I'm not going to say it. In a while, crocodile. See, it doesn't even work. Okay. No, not you again. Why is it every time I do talk about Kingdom Hearts, this guy's got to pop up for some reason? It's not you. Anyway, for my aquatic, Kingdom Hearts has a vast array of aquatic bosses. Yes, from Demyx to oh, right, Ursula, I think about there isn't that much. But the one that is on this list comes in the game from a couple years ago. The game we all waited about 13 years. And I'm gonna say this. The Caribbean did us good. We had one boss fight that was meh at best. We had a final boss that was so epic. And then we have a middle boss that actually made us something unique. What is it? All right. The Lightning Angler is by far one of the coolest underwater bosses I've ever done. For the most part, it doesn't have other enemies coming in to attack you. And it just fights us alone. Plus, using the new mechanic of moving with our Keyblade and all of our attacks being either, attacking with the Keyblade, and all of our magic elements are boosted with the water in a very unique way. And I do love it. And I like how it's in this kind of encapsulated air pocket space. And the Angler has a lot of great attacks. And I'm going to be honest, it was a tough challenge, especially since because we only kind of battled this way once for one boss. And it does it so well. And so, yeah, I'm not gonna argue with it. Lightning Angler, great heartless boss. Uses the aquatic landscape to its own effect. Its attacks are pretty cool with its lightning charge, which is wheel attack with its tail. Also, the atmosphere changes our attacks, so we got to think differently about how we attack. And I am gonna say this, Sora, you are an idiot. I'm just gonna say that. And now for a boss fight that I fought once because my best friend had the game and we decided to kick it one day. And you know what? It's a game I'm not getting and I am not fighting these boss fights. Never, ever again. Darksiders 3. Yeah, you know why a bunch of you love this game. Fury is amazing. And honestly, I was not expecting this kind of boss fight from this Sin. I am dead serious. Gluttony being an aquatic boss? I never saw that coming. The boss fight starts where we're in a room and Gluttony, his whole body is encapsulated in this one tentacle where it closes up into like a clawed tentacle. And I do love it. He begins smashing us. And then halfway through the boss fight, his mouth will spit out this poison throughout the arena. So we all honestly are going to get poisoned if we step onto it. Then halfway through, he crushes the field, dragging us into the water underneath, where he turns into this disgustingly creepy but cool Kraken squid monster. And it's amazing. And again, the boss fight kind of takes away our ability to do net regular damage. So there are explosive fire mines throughout the game, throughout the fight that will track us, and we will have to swim and bring them close to him, where he will do that thing that a lot of aquatic monsters do, is inhale in order to absorb us, and it will explode in his mouth, causing a lot of damage. So yeah, the second half of the boss fight is basically just rinse and repeat, and, he's an idiot. Just gonna say that. But then gets one of the coolest battle cutscenes. I mean, I'm glad it wasn't a QTE because, you know, God of War has already done that. Also, the boss fight from God of War Ascension, Electo, is a lot worse than... It's the same concept as this boss fight, but Gluttony did it better. A lot better. And I gotta say, I do love how Gluttony kind of influences his greed, his sin, into the boss fight, having to inhale us in order to devour us. And it turns out that his mouth was bigger than his eyes, because he ended up, you know, his stomach was... Okay, seriously, I'm tired of coming up with these jokes. Can I just say that his stomach was his downfall because he ended up eating his own explosives? Thank you. Also, he'll rush at you and try to chomp on you. So again, it's all food with this guy. And now we're back, and now we're into the top 3, guys. And this one... Wait a minute, it didn't go? Oh, for God's sake. Okay, can I get a drink first? Now go. It went? Okay, fantastic, fantastic. We are taking a cosmic trip to Mega Man Star Force 2 for this boss fight. Now, the Mega Man Star Force series has a lot of great Aqua bosses. We've got Queen Virgo from 3. We technically have Cancer Bubble from all 3 games. He's basically the wimp boss fight, the optional boss fight, where... if you lose to this guy, you aren't good at Mega Man. You are not good at Mega Man Star Force. But I'm talking about a boss from number 2 that is constantly is one of my favorite bosses from Mega Man Star Force. I'm talking about Plesio Surf and the person who is it. Because in Mega Man Star Force, the Emians, which are alien beings that represent either constellations, Nazca lines, or characters who are transmogrified with playing cards. Hey, I didn't say these games had to make sense. So basically, this one is transformed with a human, Jerry Romano, and this dude is an asshat if asshats had on their own list. Basically, he's kind of that explorer dude who sets off to lands to find undiscovered ancient monsters. And he's such a great guy because we have to go to Loch Ness. Yes, Loch Ness. They do parodies in these games. In order to find one of our friends, Zach, who claims he saw the mythical creature, Messi. Yes, you guys can tell what this is referencing to. And Jerry is there to talk to the kid and kind of get ratings for his show. And he has this every character in any Mega Man game either has a catchphrase or something stupid they always say. His is very good, and you kind of, whenever you read the text, because again, it's a text game where there's no voices, you kind of hear this pompous English accent, if I may say. But off camera, he's a bit of a jerk towards children. And it's apparent because he uses a submarine, an EM wave submarine, which basically transforms into objects that looks like the monster. And that's what Zach saw. He's basically using this in order to boost ratings. Upon Zach finding out that he's a fraud, he locks him up in the submarine. Then our good friend Hyde shows up and gives him an ancient star carrier where it releases Plesio, which EM Wave changes with Jerry to turn to Plesio Surf. And I do love the name because every boss in this game has the name of the creature plus an element. So it's either Taurus Fire, Gemini Spark. For the aquatic ones so far, it's been Cancer Bubble, and that's pretty much it. They could have gone with Plesio Water or Plesio Aqua, but going with Plesio Surf is amazing. And I realize I've spent like about 2 minutes talking about this guy's background because that's the kind of guy I do. That's what I do. His whole scheme is to flood the entire country of Loch Ness, which is good because they kind of have a tall observation deck, which gets flooded as well. So the entire country is flooded. Yay! And he does this to boost ratings. Now we get to the boss fight, where we have to go underwater to do a couple things before we can get to the boss fight. And then he admits to Zach that he played him and basically used him to get ratings because kids are disposable and only good for ratings. Before the boss fight begins, he decides to get a better boss audience by going right up to the surface and fighting us while we fight on our dive machine. And the boss fight, again, is almost like Dive Man, but a little bit better. As he dives forward and pops out randomly in certain areas because the Star Force bosses, while Mega Man Battle Network is side scroll, this one is where we are up. Okay, you know what? I'm just going to put an image because it's hard for me. There we go. And his attacks are pretty cool. He'll come underneath us in like 2 squares and chomp us. He uses a Thunder Breath, which again, I do like the diversity of his attacks. Having his Lightning Breath attack is because if we have a water form... Oh, no, wait, we don't have water forms in this. And then he'll use a Tsunami attack, which will push all rocks towards us, which will deal extra damage, which I do love. Although the only thing is, if you're playing one of the two versions, that's... Actually, you know what? Both versions have Zerker in it. So if you have Zerker, you can basically cheese him with your electrical attacks because, again, water elements take double damage from electrical attacks. And after we defeat him, he un-EM wave changes, and he's just clawing to stay above water, and everyone saw that he's a freaking fraud, and it got all caught on tape. So he's basically ruined. Plus, he's under arrest for endangering children and for flooding an entire city. Seriously, if he got arrested for endangering the welfare of a child instead of flooding an entire country, the laws in Star Force really are kind of messed up once in a while. Man, that was a long segment, but you know what? The next 2 will be even shorter. So let's get to it. This one is not for fan service. It was a legitimate good aquatic boss. A pain in the ass to fight. But yeah, I can't help but love this character. And my cosplay friend, Ray Gray Cosplay, like I told you guys before, is anything to do with mermaids, she will do. And I've been suggesting her to do this when she gets an opportunity to, because I think it would definitely work. If you guys love Cuphead, and if you watch my boss ranking, which kind of was effed up, you guys know who it is. It's the very lovely, from Island number 3, Cala Maria. Oh, this is one gorgeous mermaid with snake hair. Yeah, they kind of made her terrible in the TV show, but her boss fight alone was one of the hardest boss fights I've ever had to fight in Cuphead, right next to Rumor Honeybottom and Dr. Call's robot. Okay, yeah, even the Phantom Express. Basically, her boss fight is a plain boss fight where we just have to dodge the attacks and keep shooting, and her attacks are absolutely screwy. She'll send a seahorse, to shoot water at us, to push us up forward. She'll do a foghorn sound where ghost pirates will attack us in a pattern. She'll bring up pufferfish in our way. She'll use a fish to launch other fish at us. And then when she takes enough damage, she'll change into a Medusa-like mermaid with eels in her hair. And then she'll start conjuring up electric eels, which will shoot electricity at us, all while she's doing this kind of motion. Oh my God. Oh my God. It's kind of like the Wednesday Addams dance. Oh my God. Wait, but Cuphead was first, so I'm just going to say that. And then she'll even do her gaze at us, which turns us to stone, which doesn't damage us, but prevents us from moving, while her other attacks deal damage. And if this portion of the fight wasn't hard enough, here's the worst part. Her head will decapitate, drag us into a cave, which will still have the paralyzing attack and obstacles, and her steel snake hair will attack us. Calmaria is a definition of an aquatic boss, but an aquatic boss done right. Because how often do we actually get to fight a mermaid in a video game? Never. So the fact that we actually get to fight one and done it in such a cool way, it's... Okay, here's the formula for how Calmaria came to be. We took Medusa, we took Ariel, and mixed it with Betty Boop in order to get, again, Calmaria. Dear Lord Cuphead people, you guys create some of the most unique characters. And I'm going to say this. This was the second best aquatic boss I've ever fought. But there's one boss pretty close to my heritage that gets the #1 spot. Okay, yeah. Josh Scorcher already talked a lot about this guy for best water bosses. And yeah, I can't fault his logic. Poseidon from God of War 3 is one of the best bosses in the game, possibly the franchise. I mean, all honesty, when I first saw Poseidon, okay, yeah, and again, I'm going to say this, God of War 3 was my very first God of War game, so don't judge me. I did not play the first 4, so again, don't judge me. But at the start of the game, I was not expecting a fight of this magnitude, this early, and quite possibly one of the most amazing to-scale boss fights I've ever fought in a video game. And it's still one of my favorite boss fights. And I don't think God of War has had a boss fight that comes close to this in the last 2 games. I mean, again, that's just my opinion, but come on. We're fighting the god of the sea, and he transforms into this with his hippocampuses at the ready with crustacean shell claws as we fight on top of Gaia, where we kind of have to help her get on free from those hippocampus. But the boss fight alone is just so unscaled. It's so unbelievable. It's climactic. This is the kind of boss that you would expect as the final part of a game, or the final boss of a really cool level in any kind of adventure game. But no, the first freaking boss fight we fight, and it's not even an hour into the game yet. From the atmosphere, from the form he takes, to the attacks, to how we fight him, and also that absolute brutal way we end the boss fight. Well, let's say he actually saw it coming for once. Poseidon deserves to be at the top of any aquatic or water boss list because it represents everything about water. Literally, he's the god of the freaking sea. So what? It makes sense. Plus, again, being the first boss we fight in #3, and the rest of them kind of decline right after Hades. But at the same time, they're all still pretty good. But Poseidon just gives you that scale, that epicness that the God of War games are known for, and elevated it to new heights. So, I can fairly say that Poseidon is the #1 aquatic boss. And that's it for this week, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you guys enjoyed the list. Like, comment, subscribe down below. We still got more videos to come for this month. And join me next week, where sadly we're heading back with our famous bumbling detective as we do more chores during the summer while being haunted by a phantom horse. This is Gamer K, logging out.